The multi-billion-dollar fast fashion giant Shein built its empire by systematically exploiting a century-old U.S. customs law known as the de minimis exemption, which allows packages valued under $800 to enter the country tax-free. By shipping millions of individual, low-value packages directly from factories in China to American doorsteps, Shein successfully avoided billions of dollars in import tariffs that brick-and-mortar competitors are legally forced to pay. This is not just a story about cheap clothes. It is a story about how a shadowy tech company reverse-engineered global trade laws, weaponized real-time data, and created a financial magic trick that bypassed the traditional retail system entirely. Every single day, over 1 million packages land on United States soil from this single company. To the average consumer, it looks like a miracle of modern logistics: a trendy dress for $7, a pair of shoes for $10, shipped directly to their home in less than a week. But to economists, legal experts, and traditional retailers, it represents a massive, highly calculated regulatory evasion that has fundamentally disrupted international commerce. To understand how they did this, we have to go back to 1930, to a piece of American legislation designed for a completely different world, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. Nestled deep within this historic act was Section 321, a minor administrative rule designed to make life easier for customs officers. Back then, if an American traveler returned from Europe with a cheap souvenir, or if someone received a small gift from overseas, it made no sense for customs agents to spend hours calculating and collecting a tax worth pennies. The cost of administration was higher than the revenue collected. Thus, the de minimis rule was born, establishing a minimum threshold under which imports were exempt from duties. For decades, this threshold was tiny. In the mid-20th century, it was just $1. By the 1990s, it was raised to $200. At this level, it was still a minor convenience for international travelers and occasional mail-order buyers. But in 2016, the United States Congress made a decision that would inadvertently change the global economy forever. In an effort to simplify trade and speed up customs processing in the early days of the e-commerce boom, Congress passed the Trade Facilitation and Trade Enforcement Act, raising the de minimis threshold from $200 to $800. This meant that any shipment arriving in the United States with a declared value of $800 or less could enter the country completely duty-free, tax-free, and with virtually no customs scrutiny. It was designed to help American small businesses import components and simplify logistics. Instead, it became the launchpad for the fastest-growing retail empire in human history. Enter Chris Su, a search engine optimization specialist and the mysterious founder of Shein. Su did not view fashion through the lens of design, fabrics, or seasonal runways. He viewed it purely as data and logistics. He realized that if you ship a massive cargo container filled with thousands of garments to a warehouse in California, that container is hit with heavy import tariffs, customs inspections, and warehouse storage fees. However, if you break that container down into thousands of individual packages, address each one directly to an individual American consumer, and ship them via air freight, every single package falls below the $800 de minimis limit. The import tariff drops from millions of dollars to exactly zero. This strategic masterstroke solved the greatest vulnerability of Chinese manufacturers, the trade war tariffs. When the United States imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese imports, traditional American retailers like Gap, H&M, and Zara saw their costs skyrocket. But Shein remained completely untouched. Because their packages are shipped individually directly from hubs in Guangzhou, they bypass the tariff entirely. It is estimated that Shein avoids over $2 billion annually in import duties through this single loophole. But avoiding taxes was only half of the equation. To truly dominate, Shein had to reinvent the manufacturing process itself. Traditional fashion brands operate on a highly speculative, slow-moving calendar. They design clothes 9 months in advance, order tens of thousands of units from factories to get a bulk discount, store them in massive distribution centers, and hope they sell. If they guess wrong, they are left with mountains of unsold inventory that they must heavily discount or destroy, eating away at their profit margins. Zara revolutionized this by shortening the cycle to 3 weeks, earning the title of fast fashion. Shein, however, created what industry insiders call real-time retail, compressing the cycle to an unbelievable 3 days. Shein does not employ high-profile designers to predict the next trend. Instead, they built a proprietary software algorithm that plugs directly into the digital world. This algorithm constantly scrapes social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest, analyzing what influencers are wearing, what hashtags are trending, and what search queries are spiking in real time. The moment the algorithm detects a rising trend, it automatically generates a digital design and sends it to Shein's network of thousands of small, agile workshops in the garment districts of southern China. These workshops are not massive industrial complexes, they are small, family-run operations connected via Shein's centralized digital dashboard. The dashboard dictates exactly what to make, how many to make, and where to ship the materials. Shein starts by ordering an ultra-small batch of each item, often just 50 to 100 pieces. This is a microscopic run that traditional factories would reject instantly. But Shein's digital ecosystem makes it profitable for these small workshops by guaranteeing instant payment and constant demand. Once these 50 items are produced, they are immediately uploaded to the Shein app. If the items sell out in minutes, the algorithm automatically triggers a larger order of 500 units. If those sell, it orders 5,000. If an item fails to attract buyers, it is quietly discontinued, and the financial loss is virtually zero because only 50 units were made. This micro-batching system eliminates the biggest risk in retail, unsold inventory. While traditional brands have an unsold inventory rate of nearly 30%, Shein's unsold inventory is estimated to be less than 2%. This hyper-efficiency allows them to launch up to 10,000 new items on their app every single day. By comparison, H&M launches about 10,000 new items in an entire year. To get these packages to consumers, Shein relies on a complex, high-speed logistical network that turns global aviation into its private delivery system. Millions of items are gathered at colossal, high-tech sorting facilities near Guangzhou and Shenzhen airports. Every night, cargo planes chartered by Shein and its logistics partners take off, flying across the Pacific Ocean loaded with individual plastic bags. When these planes land at major U.S. airports like Los Angeles, Chicago, or New York, the packages bypass the rigorous cargo inspections that traditional shipping containers undergo. Under Section 321, they are processed through an expedited clearance pathway designed for low-value mail. Customs agents, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of millions of small packages arriving daily, simply cannot inspect them all. Once cleared, the packages are injected directly into domestic delivery networks like the United States Postal Service or DHL, arriving at the customer's door within days of the order being placed. This direct-to-consumer model is not just a logistical masterpiece, it is a regulatory shield. Because Shein has no physical stores and no domestic warehouses in the United States, it operates almost entirely outside the jurisdiction of U.S. retail. Regulations. However, this unchecked growth has sparked intense international backlash. Critics point out that the $800 loophole does more than just starve governments of tariff revenue. It also creates a massive blind spot for consumer safety and ethical labor. Because de minimis shipments bypass standard customs inspections, they are rarely checked for intellectual property theft, hazardous materials, or forced labor. Hundreds of independent designers have sued Shein, accusing the company of using its algorithms to systematically scrape their copyrighted work, instantly turn it into cheap replicas, and sell it before the original designers even realize their work has been stolen. More concerningly, investigations have alleged that some of Shein's ultra-cheap cotton garments may be tied to forced labor regions, a claim that Shein strongly denies but one that remains incredibly difficult to verify due to the lack of supply chain transparency. Furthermore, the environmental toll of this business model is catastrophic. The production of millions of synthetic garments designed to be worn only a few times before being thrown away, combined with the carbon footprint of flying millions of individual packages around the globe on cargo jets, makes Shein's environmental impact one of the most unsustainable in human history. The company has essentially democratized high-speed consumption, turning clothing into a disposable commodity. Today, the loophole that built this $100 billion empire is under direct threat. Governments around the world are finally waking up to the reality of what they have allowed to happen. Lawmakers in the United States, the European Union, and South Africa are drafting legislation to drastically lower or entirely eliminate the de minimis threshold for e-commerce imports. If these laws pass, Shein's entire business model could collapse overnight. The addition of standard import tariffs, custom processing fees, and mandatory inspections would drive up their prices, slowing their logistics to a crawl and erasing their competitive advantage. The era of the tax-free, $7 dress shipped across the world may be coming to an end. If this calculated exploitation of global trade laws shocked you, you must watch our video about how Temu is spending billions of dollars on a suicidal customer acquisition strategy to destroy Amazon.